Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are
the Signal Brothers. Hey, folks, welcome back to another live podcast with the Signal Brothers. We're glad to have you here. Just going to go through some of the stuff that we normally cover in the beginning, and just know that all opinions expressed by Kevin and Jim are solely theirs and not a representative of our employers or our family members.
That's right.
Please follow us on Facebook and on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll leave that banner going. We'll keep on popping it up. We'd love to get some more subscribers out there. So if you like what you see, you reinforce that by letting us know by following us and subscribing to us. We'd love to take questions about the subject we're covering. If you got questions for us or our guest this evening, please put them in the chat. And when we see them, we'll get to them and we'll get them answered. Let us know what you're passionate about, and let's get you on the podcast. We'd love to interview people. Jim and I are tired of talking to each other on these podcasts. So what we want to do is get you on the podcast. So if you're interested in being on the podcast, please give us a holler. Reach out to Jim or I and let us know. We'd love to get you on there and we'll get you on there.
Yep.
You know somebody that wants to be on the podcast? Hey, let us know that too. And if you're not interested on being on the podcast, then put an idea in the chat. If you got an idea of something you want us to cover, we'll be happy to also go ahead and cover a subject that you have. Mm-hmm. Well, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Ian Chamberlin to the stage. Hey, welcome, Ian.
Welcome, Ian.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Well, great. Jim, I'll let you get started with Ian.
All right. Well, hey, Ian, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, Jim?
All right. Hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, that kind of thing, just to let us get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1995. My father was deployed to Diego Garcia while I was born, and at 6 months, he took me and my mom to Rota, Spain. And after he got out of the Navy, I ended up in Stafford, Virginia, a suburb of Quantico, the largest Marine Corps base, or one of them. And I spent the next 20 years or so in Northern Virginia. And now I work remotely. So my wife and I were thinking about where do we want to settle down. And I told her there was only one place I wanted to settle down, and that was Toledo. Being a Navy kid and having all of my family in Toledo, I feel like I missed a lot of family interactions and spending time with my grandparents and stuff like that. So we're happy to be here. I'm a South Ender. I live by Toledo Zoo. So that's pretty much family stuff. I graduated from George Mason with a bachelor's in public administration and a master's in public policy. My first job out of college was working for the Department of Defense. I got to spearhead a IT accessibility program. So after working at the Department of Defense for about a year, I was like, I don't know if I want to work in government. I know I want to get my PhD. So I ended up making the transition to higher education. And that's the career field that I'm in right now. I work for a private Catholic university. I negotiate all sorts of agreements, review budgets. So I'm no stranger to legal language or having to have an eye for detail.
Okay. So Ian, you're currently running for you're the Republican candidate for District 41 in the Ohio House of Representatives. What made you decide to run?
So I think it's my own life story ultimately that made me decide to run. My dad didn't see a future for him here in Northwest Ohio. And so he joined the United States Navy and took us, halfway across the globe and ultimately 9 hours away from our family. And so I want the story of me coming back to Toledo to be the story. I want the story to be that there's opportunity here in Toledo, in Northwest Ohio, Maumee, Holland, Springfield, and just ensure that future generations and future families can stay together in a city, in a town, in a community that we love.
Okay. Now, what District 41, what exactly does that cover?
So District 41, it's one of the smaller House districts here in Ohio, and it covers some of the suburbs of Toledo, Holland, Springfield Township, Maumee, and then a little bit of South Toledo, which is where I'm at.
Okay. Okay. So reasonable area right outside of Toledo, you said?
Yeah.
How about the top 2 issues that you hear from the people that you represent? And what are your plans to address those?
I think right now one of the pressing issues in Ohio is property tax. When I ran in the primary, there was 2 addendums or 2 ballot referendums that were for property tax in my district, and both property tax ballot referendums failed, ballot measures, whatever you want to call them. So I think people are really discontent with how much property tax has risen in the past couple of years and how much they are paying in taxes. And I think that they're looking for the state to find solutions to give them relief. And so one of property tax relief is part of my campaign. And the way I see property tax relief is I would like it to be targeted. The first point of my campaign platform, being a son of a veteran, is 100% property tax exemption for disabled veterans. We live in an area that is 15 minutes south of a border in Michigan where you move across the state line and you're a disabled veteran, 100% of your property tax is exempt. And I have veterans that are telling me that they're thinking daily about moving to Michigan because they're just right down the street from their family, but they'll save money on property tax. And I'm sure those conversations are happening all across District 41 from men and women who served our country. The other targeted property tax I'd like to see is the expansion of the Homestead Exemption Act. That is property tax relief for senior citizens and fixed income families.
Yep.
Right now, the thresholds that the homestead exemption sits at are too low. And I think as costs are rising and those exemptions stay low, the amount of property tax that those vulnerable people are expected to pay and aren't exempt from is rising. Well, if you're in a fixed income and your property tax keeps increasing, you have less money to buy groceries, to pay for medication, to do things that really matter for you in your life. And so that's my view on property tax. And I think the second thing is Toledo has been struggling with crime. And I was at the Old West End Festival where there was a horrific event where 12 people were shot. And so I think that there is a call to action in our community for supporting law enforcement and ensuring that our streets and our neighborhoods are safe. And I think we need to be smart on crime. I don't think that repeat violent offenders deserve to have, probation and be on the street and be walking amongst us. And if you commit horrible crimes against people knowingly and you keep doing it, you don't deserve to be a part of society. And the state really needs to pass House Bill 5. I believe that's being sent to the governor right now. And I think we need to be harsh on repeat offenders. And we need to understand that sometimes people make mistakes and understand that when people are doing things that are like shoplifting, etc., then we need to take those people and we need to have more rehabilitative services for them and not just say, okay, well, we caught you with marijuana, you get 5 years in jail. I think we need to make sure that the crime and the punishment makes sense according to the crime, and that we need to make sure that violent offenders don't have a place in our communities.
Ian, I appreciate your perspectives, and they fall exactly in line with the Republican, the standard Republican agenda. And I would say to you, just ask a follow-on question about the first part of that, right? It's great that you want to help folks relieve, their financial burden, right? But the Democrats say, what we need the money to make the state go. Do you have any ideas of how to generate some additional income if you make those cuts?
Yeah, and this source of revenue is something that the state of Ohio hasn't touched for over 20 years, and it's severance tax. And that's the tax assessed to companies that drill oil, natural gas, and shale. And Ohio has the 5th largest, I believe, natural gas and shale deposit in the entire country. We're talking more than Texas. And when we compare ourselves as a state to border states, Ohio has the cheapest rates. And the companies that are in Ohio and are drilling aren't headquartered in Ohio. These are companies that are in New Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas. And this is a limited Ohio resource. And the people of Ohio aren't reaping benefits the way that they should be when the state isn't assessing tax that's modernized. I mean, it hasn't been touched in 20 years. And there's a huge dependency on natural gas right now. We should be reaping the benefits as the people of the natural resources available in our state instead of letting companies in other states take them for discounted rates.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great perspective. You know, and it's a shame that it's been untouched for 20 years and that there's an opportunity to earn the money and they're not taking advantage of that. And I appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah, as far as a property tax thing, I mean, Kevin, I know your state, Virginia, has a situation for that to tax exempt for disabled veterans. Tennessee has one. It's a state-backed program. It's probably not exactly the same as Virginia, but we've got something. But if Ohio has nothing, yeah, I don't think seniors or disabled veterans, or to be honest, I don't care if you're 35 years old. If your house is paid off, I don't think you should have to pay property taxes. I mean, that may be a little extreme, but if you pay your car off, if you pay your TV off, if you're not paying taxes on it anymore, right? So, but yeah, most of our listeners, no matter where they're sitting at, I'm sure that those two things resonate with them as well, regardless of where they're at. It's a concern for everybody these days.
I think nationally, Ian, one of the big things everybody's worried about now is cost of living. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's something that President Trump ran on. And right now with things going on, and we'll cover that later, that's one of the toughest things. So it seems like you got a good handle on what's going on in Ohio as far as the cost of living and trying to make it affordable for people.
Yeah. Which is a great segue to the next question. Yeah. Your opponent is an incumbent and a Democrat. What do you see as being your biggest challenge, or your path to unseating this incumbent?
Yeah, so in my district, it's interesting. A majority of voters in my district are unaffiliated, meaning they don't claim a party. They're not a Republican or a Democrat. Mm-hmm. They may, have voting tendencies like we all do, but they don't pick a party allegiance. And so I don't think that this race will necessarily be decided by, what party label do you have. It's going to be decided by me getting out there and earning the trust of hardworking families and independents and people who feel like Columbus isn't listening to them anymore. So I think my path really is, it's a midterm election. I have to have Republicans motivated to get out to the polls to vote down ballot. I'm not a top ticket guy. I'm running for state rep, so I'll be all the way at the bottom right before the ballot referendums. And I really need to focus on who's in the middle and making sure those people are aware of who I am. So we have to motivate Republicans that have voted in generals and midterms and get them motivated to get out there. And I got to capture some independents. And, I think one of the things about me that differs from my opponent is I'm not a career politician. I haven't been involved in, labor politics or anything like that. I've been a public servant my whole career. I've worked for the federal government in higher education. I've dealt with government in those roles at both the federal, the state, and the local level. So while I'm an outsider, I have experience dealing with these entities and understanding the challenges of them. And I think most of us voters are just looking for someone who understands what we're going through and has a way forward for us to feel like there's going to be an improvement in the future. So I think it's just getting that message out there and showing people that, Republicans do care about union workers. Republicans do care about hardworking families. Republicans do care about people who are just trying to make ends meet, and making them aware that there is a way forward that doesn't rely on the government controlling everything you do in your life.
Yeah,
Hey, you bring up an interesting point, Ian, about getting Republicans out there to vote. It's not just a problem in Ohio. I think it's a problem nationwide, right? I know it's a problem in Virginia. It's a huge
Yeah.
problem in Virginia, and especially getting Republicans out to do early voting. I don't know. Do you guys have early voting in Ohio?
Yeah, we
Ian?
do. It starts in about 90 days. And that's one thing that, the Democrats do really well. They organize and they get the vote out early, and they make us Republicans play catch up on election day. And, you're right. We got to get out there early and we got to start playing that game.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and I don't know why we can't get more Republicans to vote early. And going back to the fact that you said majority of the voters in your district are not affiliated, it seems like, yeah, even though they have voting tendencies, it seems like there is a large group of voters, Ian, that are at least open to hear what you say, what you have to say. And
Yeah,
so
I think
how's been the feedback so far of you being out there door knocking and going to events? Have people been open to your message?
yeah, they have, and it's been really rewarding being out there and meeting a lot. I've met so many people, and you know, I would say more often than not, people are really kind. And I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be my policies that get me elected. It's going to be that people like me. And so when I'm out at state fairs, county fairs, the strawberry festival, the cherry festival, all this stuff, I'm just out there being me. And that's all I can be. And hope that people like me for who I am and know, hey, he's a good guy. He really cares about Northwest Ohio and our children having success and staying here. And, he's here for the long term. I'm a homeowner now. My wife and I are looking to start a family here. And, this is home for me. And I don't want to be one of the people that stays behind. Lucas County, the county that we live in, its population has been declining for the past 30 years. And for the next 25 years, it's projected to decline another 20%. And so when we talk about taxes, we have to realize that it's not just the amount we pay, but the amount of people who are paying.
Yep.
And that if our tax base keeps shrinking, those of us that stay in Northwest Ohio, we're going to be paying more of what we're getting for ourselves. And the reliance is going to be even more on us. And we want to talk about cost of living. Well, if our region's not growing, if our city, our communities aren't growing, it's going to get tougher. And so I think that's what we have to do is we have to grow. And that's a message I carry with me everywhere. And I think it's because that's me and that's part of my story. And so I think it's just about being myself. And I kind of think that's also what it's going to take for me to flip the seat, is just genuinely being myself and showing that there's good Republicans out there and making a difference that way.
Yeah, well, being on TV and being in person are two different things. Because people on TV, you really can't tell what they're about. But you get with a group of people and you talk to them face to face, they can tell when you're fake.
Yeah.
So you be yourself, be genuine, absolutely. And you mentioned about the tax being paid amongst a larger or a shrinking group of people. We're seeing real world effects on that in other states where people are fleeing, like California and New York. We're seeing people and companies fleeing there. They've got to make the same revenue, but now again, less people, less companies sharing that burden. So we're seeing the effect on that right now. So yeah, that does need to improve. That yeah, you got to at least slow it down or stop it and not let it continue to people to leave like that.
And the interesting thing is the states that are growing are these southern states that have historically struggled with population loss.
Yeah, Tennessee's booming. Nashville, and even my small suburb of Nashville, you can't move now. You're elbow to elbow with everybody. I used to drive down the street and see farms and see farm animals, bison. Driving down the street, seeing bison. It's all mini malls and condos and townhomes now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it reminds me of Stafford when I first moved there. The Target, the marketplace, it was just a giant field on the side of 610. And now it's a huge shopping center. So,
Yep.
I think when we have growth, it needs to be responsible growth. it doesn't need to be strip malls everywhere down the street, but
Ridiculous.
We did get a it's more of a comment, but it's also a question from Ponytail. It said, do you see where auditing taxpayer services to reduce waste may be the first way to increase revenue without raising taxes?
That's an interesting question, but at the same time, if we're paying somebody to audit, that requires taxpayer funding. And if you hire an outside consultant, it requires taxes. Or if you're leaning on, let's say, the treasurer of the state, you're paying state employees to conduct the audit. And so I do think that there is something to say about reducing fraud within the state, and that is a way that funds can be recuperated and actually placed back in programs or in people's pockets in instances of recovery. And I think eliminating fraud should be one of the top things the state is focusing on. There's so many national headlines now going around about fraudulent activity. And I do think, that's a breach of us as taxpayers. That's somebody else taking money that we thought was going to go to schools, that we thought was going to go to police officers, that we thought that was going to go to somebody who actually needed medical assistance. And it's funding a lifestyle that is not the lifestyle to be lived by somebody. So
it's a desirable outcome, but there is an initial investment.
Yeah,
for sure. I gotcha. Okay.
So, Ian, you've been out there knocking on doors. You've been talking to lots of voters. You've been out there, right? And people have been, I'm sure you said it's been a moving experience. What is the single moment or conversation you have that has totally motivated you the most to keep going?
It's hard to pick one. I think there's two that come to mind. Just recently, last week, I was endorsed by the Toledo Police Command Officers Association. So I think anytime police officers endorse you as a candidate, I think it shows that you care about the safety of your community, but also that you care about public servants. And so I think having that endorsement really means a lot to me, given what those guys do, those men and women do every day. And another one, it made me laugh a little. I was sitting in bed one night next to my wife, and we were just talking, and I get tagged in an Instagram post, and it's the Lucas County High School Republicans are endorsing me. And
okay,
it doesn't mean anything on the scale of anything. It's not the same grandiose as a labor organization or anything. But to me, it was just like, okay, I've got kids that like me, that look up to me, that see themselves in me, kind of deal. And I think I talk so much about the future and our kids, our grandchildren staying in Northwest Ohio, to receive an endorsement from a group of kids. It was a really cool feeling just to say, like, hey, the next generation really is inspired by me. So I think those two instances are probably my favorite so far.
And they'll be voting in a couple of years too. So there you go.
Yeah, they could be voting this election if they're 17 turning 18 before the election. So
I think that's pretty powerful because that's the future, right? And you're pretty young yourself, Ian. But nonetheless, I mean, we're talking about teenagers, right, that are either eligible or about to be eligible to vote, and you're moving them, right? You're moving the future. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's that was one of my it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We got another comment from Ponytail. Yeah. How about reducing the size of bloated departments?
So I get asked this question a lot because I think people see what DOJ has done with the federal government, and they think that, you can just, axe departments and just cut things. But the approach that I have is we have to eliminate mission creep. And I think the issue that I've seen in government is that there are agencies that will start to do things that are outside of their typical scope. And they'll say that, we're doing this, we need money. And so we'll start as taxpayers paying twice for the same thing. And these agencies then start combating each other, even though one could be doing it better than the other. And so we're paying twice for the same service. And so I don't see it as eliminating departments or reducing size. I guess technically it is if you're eliminating something they're doing, but we need to make sure that agencies are staying within their scope of work, that they are pursuing their mission and they are adhering to the mission, and they can't be infringing on other agencies. And I think that if we want to talk about responsible government, it has to be agencies doing what they're supposed to do and eliminating bloat through redundancy.
That's really good.
All
You know,
right.
Ian, we've covered Doge over the last year and a half, on and off, right? And
Yeah.
one of the things we keep on talking about is I'm all for reducing the size of government, right? But I don't believe in the chainsaw. I think Jim's on the same token, right? We don't believe in the chainsaw method. We believe in the scalpel method, right? And so the problem is that you got these young 19-year-old kids, and I'm not putting down 19-year-old kids, but they're using AI, they're using just spreadsheets, to make decisions on reducing the government without understanding the true impacts of what's happening, right? And so, one of the things we keep on saying is, hey, if we need to cut spending, tell a department, hey, you need to reduce your spending by X number, by 15%, right? And let that department determine how they reduce that spending, right, in order to recoup money. What's your feeling about that? Would you be for something like that?
So you're saying, what if we told all agencies you have to reduce spending by, let's say, 10% flat, and it doesn't matter how you reach that 10% reduction, as long as you get to that 10% reduction, we're good. You met the cut kind of deal. I think that's an interesting approach, but it would require also the way that we budget. I think federally it would require Congress to do some saying no, and it doesn't matter who's in power. Congress doesn't like saying no to anybody. So I think that's the challenge federally. I do know that there are some proposals in the Ohio State House that every fiscal year's budget has to start from zero, and so it eliminates what happens in the federal government of, oh, hey, we have to hurry up and spend all this money right at the end of the fiscal year so we can make sure we get this same money at least next year. And so it's an interesting concept. I haven't thought too much about how the state budgets the state government, but I think there are calls for fiscal responsibility. If we as normal people have to live within our means, it should be reasonable to ask the government, hey, live within your means. If you and I go to our boss and we ask for a 10% raise every year, we might not have a job in the year. So it's I think the government needs to realize that reality as well.
Well, there's another approach. My company did this, and I'd never seen any place do this before. We had a team that didn't meet its budget, and it had to let somebody go. And then we had another team, my team, that we needed a person in a specific area, but we couldn't really afford to go out there and recruit one. So, the directors of each company, I've got a guy that's got an expertise in this, and this. Does any other team, can they use him and have a slot for him? And my manager said, yeah, we have a slot and we can use him for this. So they just simply swapped them over. Now this team's meeting budget and we got another guy and we didn't have to expand our budget to do it. So I mean,
that's interesting. I don't know how that would work in in the state government about slotting people over, and I guess to me it sounds in conflict with my idea of reducing redundancy.
I know you're changing the size of departments, but overall you're the same size.
Yeah, but I do think that there needs to be more flexibility in government today, and maybe some of those rigid structures that we are expecting or have had, maybe we need to find ways legally to save taxpayers money by doing things like that. And I think that was something that frustrated me when I was in the federal government, was just the amount of bureaucratic red tape, and on the daily how hard it is just to do something the right way and the effective way. And I think that's a conversation that needs to be held at all levels of government is, do we have, legislative bloat? Do we have policy bloat that actually prohibits good outcomes? And I'm sure I'm sure there are multiple examples that exist, and I'm sure we've all lived through that. So.
Mhm. Well, it sounds like you got good ideas, and it sounds like you actually want to do something for your community. And that's one of my favorite things in the world is a candidate that is not a lifetime politician.
Yeah.
That's where I will always gravitate to first. And when you pointed out that at the beginning of our conversation that you're not a career politician, and
Yeah,
that the government service all your life, but you're not, you've not been a career politician.
Yeah, and I think that works to your advantage a little bit. And I like to think positively of myself. It's like, yeah, I can say I'm an outsider, but I do have a little, peek into what goes on. I've
Right.
opened the hood and seen the engine kind of deal. So I think if I'm a unusual circumstance, especially for our area to have worked for the federal government and to come back. And I'm not saying that I want to bring DC. I love Toledo the way it is. I love Northwest Ohio the way it is. And I would really say that Toledo raised me. I grew up calling Toledo home. That's my mom called it home at every single moment she could. And so it's like, to me, I've lived in Rhode Spain. I've lived in Stafford, Virginia, but this has always been home to me. And I just want to make it better. And that's all I care about.
That's commendable. I mean, we talked before. I grew up in Columbus, and I love Tennessee. Living in Tennessee, I've lived here for over 30 years. But there's when I drive across that border into Ohio, I always just kind of, yeah. I know what you're saying. But if I was in Ohio, when I vote for you, but I mean, yeah, I
Ian,
a long time ago.
So, I know you're busy focused on this campaign, and this is your focus right now to win this campaign. But, do you see yourself, regardless of the outcome, potentially running again? Let's say if you're not successful, do you see yourself running again? And then if you are successful, do you see yourself potentially in the future running at the federal level to represent the folks where you live?
I think, that was my two dreams growing up were to be a professional golfer and be president. So, I'm not a professional golfer, so, one's still on the table. But I think, man, this campaigning it's a busy time of year. And so I think right now it's hard for me to think past November 3rd. Sure. And I think after November 3rd, I'm probably going to take some time and try and convince my wife, probably go on a little vacation and just, no matter the result, just take some time. And I think just kind of see where I'm at after going through an election. And, I do realize I'm a first-time candidate. I don't have any name recognition. I'm going against a well-liked incumbent. And I think right now I'm just trying to get the word out about me, my ideas. And, when we pull off an upset, I'll be giddier than ever. But, if that's not what God has in store for me, then, I accept that. And we'll just keep going and doing the right thing.
That's awesome. I understand that you do like playing golf. I understand you got a pretty good mean golf swing there.
Yeah, I see. I see the comment back-to-back Tammy's House charity golf tournament champion. It's pretty close to pro. We didn't go back-to-back though, so
Well, I mean, the good thing is if you continue this as a career and you actually do get to be president of the United States, I guarantee you'll get time to work on that golf game.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Colin and I will be playing lots of golf.
So, I mean, I know you did play in a golf tournament to raise money for your campaign. Have you had opportunities aside from that to get out and play any golf, Ian? Because I think golf is a great way to connect with people that have the power and the money to help support your campaign.
Yeah, it's funny. I signed up for a golf league that plays every Wednesday, and my parents just moved up here, and so I was like, "Oh, Dad, sign up with me. It'll be a way for you to get out, play some golf, meet some guys." And I haven't been like the past 5 weeks just because I've been so busy with everything. And so Yeah, I got to play in Gary Portillo's Father's Day golf tournament, and that was really cool. I played with Roberto Torres, who is a previous Toledo Public Schools board member, and he ran for mayor in the last mayoral election. And he's a really well respected community member. And um, I've played once. My dad just became a member at Toledo Country Club, so I got to play 9 holes out there, and then had to leave and go to brunch with the community leader. But so I haven't played as much, and it's been beautiful weather this week, so I miss it. But I'm still get out there when I can, and I sponsored a beverage cart at a golf tournament, so it's this Sunday, so they'll have my yard signs on the beverage cart, and it'll be driving around the course. So I was like, yeah, that's money well spent. Golf tournament people, everybody goes up to the beverage cart. So, the 100 people that are out there are just going to be seeing my name all day. And it's for a club that's in my district. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
That's awesome, Ian. I'm really hoping for you, right? I've known you a little while, and I think your heart's in the right place. I think you are the future, right, of what we need. We need more folks like you stepping up to the plate, man. I just want to share that. I really do.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
We're going to transition in our podcast to the back half, where we cover some current events that have happened since the last podcast. It's been a while since we've had a podcast, because we are trying to make sure we do these with interviewing people now, instead of Jim and I just talking to ourselves. So we're trying to line up a bunch of interviews for podcasts. So we're going to cover some topics. Ian, we'll start them. You're welcome to get into the conversation you want. If you want to pass, you're welcome to pass.
Okay.
But we're going to start with the Iran conflict. And Jim, I'm going to get us started here, right? This has been going on for quite some time. And, it looked like we had an agreement and things were going to take a stop. And, it takes two parties to follow the rules in order to have a ceasefire. And I think, I've never been a big Trump fan, and it's not that I'm against Trump, but I got to tell you, I think he's got this right. I think the consistent strikes that he's had to weaken the Iran's ability to control the Strait of Hormuz is important. I think it's extremely important. I've read articles that potentially that the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, or the new religious leader is not in the country anymore. So who's really running the country of Iran?
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting. We're at a point where we have to see this through. I think right now, this is going to be the defining moment of President Trump's presidency, seeing this through. I think stopping anytime prior to getting this done, and I'm not talking about regime change, I'm just trying to get them to capitulate, is what we need to do. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he can't stop now. I mean, you may argue that he might be going too far, doing the wrong, but we're committed now. If we back out now, we've got no credibility. And I mean, yeah, it's driving gas prices back up. Oil's hit $100 a barrel for the first time. I mean, those parts aren't good. But I think he's looking at the long term. And again, our credibility, we can't just back down. I mean, we're in it now. We have to see it through. And like you said, it takes two sides, and we make an agreement and somebody breaks it, and then we're right back where we started from. It's just, and anytime you deal with the Middle East, it's like that. They just, I don't know what it is about that. We just cannot keep a lasting peace with any of the Middle Eastern countries for any period of time whatsoever. And that goes back to what you mentioned a little bit ago, that scalpel versus the sledgehammer. Right now we're in sledgehammer phase.
Ian, any comments on the Iran conflict?
Iran to me is like, we studied it in grad school, and we talked about the Shah and the overthrowing of the Shah during the 1978 revolution, and just our foreign policy with Iran. I think it's been complicated for decades. I do think Iran is a destabilizing force in the Middle East. I mean, for decades, they've funded terrorism all throughout. And I believe that the United States should firmly support our allies and I support strong national defense. And I think preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon is a priority for Americans throughout our entire country. And I think the interesting thing is, this isn't talked a lot about, is that Kamala Harris, during her presidential campaign, was asked who's the number one enemy of the United States, and her answer was Iran. So I think it's unfortunate how politicized our national security has become, and that this is something that during a presidential election, both candidates spoke about and had in the back of their mind. So I just think we have to continue to support, our National Guard members, our active duty servicemen and women, and just keep them in our hearts and minds as they are out there protecting us. And, national security matters even here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next subject, World Cup. I'm going to let you lead this one, Jim.
Oh, Spain. How about that? That was overtime? It was like 0-0 forever. I was kind of hoping for Argentina, but I'll take Spain. But the games were incredible. They seemed like they lasted forever. But probably the thing about the World Cup that resonates with me the most is the fans from all over the world that came to the United States and were just absolutely amazed and had a blast with their time here. It was great to watch that, and so many of them said how they were told how bad it was here and how we're always fighting and how we're always how horrible it is and how they come over and have such a great time. And ranch, they discovered ranch dressing. I mean, that's awesome. But back to the athletes, a competition that broad that it's held every 4 years. All these countries are involved in the FIFA Cup, and it's just amazing to see all these young people and all this competition. Mostly, good quality. Not, we didn't really have any problems that I can recall off the top of my head. So it was a major event. It was great to watch. I didn't watch every game or anything, but I watched the highlights. So it was incredible.
In our family, we're big soccer fans. Having a wife from Germany and the kids, being raised in Germany, we obviously follow soccer or football as it's known everywhere else, but in the U.S. I thought there were some really good games. Right, some of the upsets were pretty shocking to me. I will speak though to a couple things about the World Cup that definitely shocked me. The final, I thought Argentina, right? They lost on their own demise. That one player, and I forget his name, that got the 2 yellow cards and got booted from the game. That was on him, right? And then the way Argentina behaved at the end of the game, after the game was over, and then the fact that they turned their backs on Spain when they raised the World Cup, being the former champions, was just not professional whatsoever.
I did not see
that.
Yeah,
so it wasn't professional at all. And so, it comes down to one thing is that, and we'll get into some of this stuff, but, whether you agree or disagree on calls or whatever, I think you got to respect the fact that Spain won the World Cup, and you got to congratulate them and say, hey, good job, right? Some of the stuff that went on at the end of that game and was just uncalled for. And so good for Spain. I think the U.S. did a lot better than anybody thought they were going to do.
Yeah,
anybody thought that the U.S. was going to win the World Cup was not on the same playing field as everybody else. But there were some shockers. Germany got knocked out pretty early again, right? That was pretty shocking. The fact that England made it to the quarterfinals, I think that's pretty shocking. Ian, any comments on the World Cup?
Yeah, I watched the final 2 minutes of who did we play before Belgium? Paraguay? Was it Uruguay? I watched like the very end of Uruguay, and then I was talking to a friend at work, and I was just like, I don't think we're beating Belgium. Just something about it. A lot of people were rumbling that, oh, the U.S. could win it all. They're a dark horse, and just something about that Belgium game. And then it got out of hand pretty quick, if I remember correctly. It was like 2-0 by the 43rd minute or something like that. But I do agree with Jim that it was really cool. I was getting all these videos of all these foreigners that were coming to the U.S. and were just like eating Texas barbecue, and
they ran out of beer.
Yeah. And it just, I think we have such a, like, foreign media has such a way that they view us, and how, are they really coming to our cities and seeing what everyday Americans are like? I think 98% of my daily interactions, everybody's really kind, head nods, how are you? Oh, sorry, I'm in the way. Like, it's very rare do you get somebody that's just absolutely rude and is, what they portray us as abroad. So it felt like a little vindication of all these people coming here and being like, wow, Americans are so kind, and their food's amazing, and their country's beautiful. And, I think being an American, it was like, yeah, it is. Like, duh. So, yeah.
What a great point. I mean, those of us who traveled overseas know what a great country we have. And I'm not just talking about us. I'm talking about there's a lot of people live in this country have traveled overseas. And when you travel overseas and how other people live, you realize what a great country we have, right? But that was emulated by all the people coming and seeing what a great country we really do have.
That was
right?
so awesome.
And other people coming to our country and acknowledging that, right? I remember in 2017 when I'm sorry about that, when my in-laws came to visit from Germany, first time they had ever come, and they were amazed. They couldn't believe it, right? Because all they know about the U.S. is my interaction with them and what they see on TV, right? And then they came to the U.S., they got to see D.C., and they were just blown away, right? So I think we do have a great country, and the media loves to see us divided. And I think we are a lot closer and a lot more aligned than we realize sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say about the ranch. Did you guys see that TSA was confiscating so much ranch?
Yeah.
People trying to...
Yeah.
All right. Next topic is the ICE shootings. I'm going to lead this one off. Listen, I am not okay with what's been going on with ICE lately. These shootings, it's not acceptable. I don't care what the issue is. There's no accountability. Why don't they have body cams by now? I don't understand why. Listen, this has got to stop. And there was, they did call for a stop to it. And then President Trump said, no, continue your tactics, right? I think there's got to be some accountability here, right? I've talked about this before. To take a life is a very, you got to make a decision. To take somebody's life, you have to live with that for the rest of your life, that you took somebody's life. And you got to do it for the right reasons. And the only right reason to take somebody else's life is when you truly believe 100% that your life is at risk. Bottom line. So I think there needs to be accountability. I think the ICE agents need body cams, and I think there needs to be some accountability in what's going on.
Yeah. I think we can support secure borders and lawful immigration enforcement and still expect that there's professionalism, that there's transparency, and that there's respect for the U.S. Constitution. I think those are reasonable asks of what's going on.
Well, early on we had the shooting of that nurse, and I can't remember her name now. And then we had the shooting of right after that, where she had tried to hit him with a car.
Renee Good,
yes. And then the nurse after that, the male nurse. Yeah. You got two different situations there, and you got other situations, and everything's different. You can't blanket, these kind of things. It's a case by case basis, and you try to defend, what they're doing. She tried to run them over with a car. That's self-defense. I don't care if you're an agent or not. If you're just me or you standing on the street and someone tries to run you over with a car, you got the right to defend yourself. But the more and more we get into this, the harder and harder it is to defend when people are doing stuff that's beyond what is acceptable, like what you're talking about, Kevin. It's just they're taking it too far, and they're I think they're getting kind of a swollen head collectively that, well, it worked over here. Well, now I can kind of do this, and do it. It'll also work here. No, it's a case by case basis. If an agent's attacked, they have the right to defend themselves. If there's somebody else getting hurt, they have the right. It's not a blanket right. It's not a blanket right. You can't just treat it with a blanket. I mean, everything's different. Every interaction is different. I mean, and you can say, and I have said, don't break the law and you'll be at less risk of getting shot. That's sounding less and less viable these days. I mean, I still agree with that statement, but there is a point at which you can subdue without having to kill.
100%.
And
I'm not going to question. I don't know what went on in every instance.
Right.
But I just see too much going on. No body cams, no oversight. And I think there has to be much better oversight on what's going on.
Yeah, because I mean, we both and we all think we're a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. We want our laws upheld. We don't want abuse of the system. But the thing is, we don't want anybody hurt either. We don't want people hurt. We don't want people killed. We want them to obey the law. We want there to be reasonable consequences if they don't. We don't want anybody actually hurt.
Yep. All right. On to Lindsey Graham and Darlene Nordone. All right. I want to leave this one off. I tell you, Lindsey Graham passing obviously was a shock, right? I think it was a shock to a lot of people. Before I get into Darlene, the one thing that really bothers me that's still going on in this country is people celebrating people's demise. Death, right? And I don't care what party. Either way, I don't want to ever see anybody celebrate anybody's demise, right? And I think we got to stop and get away from that. There's freedom of speech, freedom of press. I got it. You have the freedom of speech to say what you want to say. But you know what? I also believe in karma. Right? What comes around goes around. Don't be happy that somebody died, right? Mm-hmm. But don't be happy about that. Now, Darlene Nordone, who is Lindsey's Graham's younger sister, right? She's in there to finish out his term, but she's now also said she's going to run to replace, to be the senator in South Carolina. And I'll tell you, there's a lot. I've done a lot of reading on that, and there's a lot of people that are not happy that she is going to run. So it should be interesting to see what happens with that seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the thing of conspiracy theories, and you and I have had to talk about conspiracy theories. How suddenly he died. I've heard a few people throw a couple of things out there about, there's a reason behind that. He died so suddenly and everything. I don't pay it any heed, but. Yeah, that was quite a shock. I mean, that was just, you didn't see that coming at all. And it really just, are they trying to just keep a Republican in that seat by her? And when she runs, at this point, she will have had several months in the job and then have the name recognition. So I don't know. That remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to talk about that, 5 or 6 months from now.
Absolutely. Ian?
Yeah, I think it's just a common practice to appoint a family member to a sitting representative seat when they pass. So she's going to have to primary, so it'll be interesting to see how that seat unfolds and how competitive it will be. I personally was a fan of Lindsey Graham. I admired him. Military service, lifelong public servant, and he was unapologetically him. So, and I think that when Lindsey Graham couldn't be anybody else other than Lindsey Graham, and so I think that's the brand of politician that I like and that I gravitate towards. And, that goes on both sides of the aisle. And when you can tell that person is speaking what they believe and they are them, it's like, okay, I may disagree, but I respect it and I admire it.
Absolutely. And he died modest. I mean, he didn't end up filthy rich with all the years he had in Congress either, right? I mean, he had a net worth of like between 2 and 3 million, which is not unusual for somebody his age and where he is in life. But he's not worth hundreds of millions of dollars like other politicians.
Yeah, in their 30s. But yeah, I mean that thing about celebrating someone's death or demise, that's just that's inhuman. Even when you're at the point where, say, when they got Osama bin Laden, he needed to get got. That doesn't mean I'm going to celebrate it. I just that's morally reprehensible.
Yeah. And while we're on it, we'll swing over to Mitch McConnell, right? This thing going on, Mitch McConnell just says that not only do we need term limits, but we need age limits, right?
Yes.
For positions of serving, right? I think I know that this is his last term and he's going to be out, but it just adds fuel to the fire, right? That he should not have run again.
Yeah, because we have people in Congress that got in there in the 60s, and this world is not the same as it was in the 60s.
No.
I mean, that needs to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will share, I did sign a pledge with U.S. term limits that if elected, that I would call for a constitution, a convention to the Constitution, and propose a constitutional amendment, because you need the states to call for that action. And so
yeah,
that starts in the state houses calling for that action. If Congress isn't going to pass a bill that says, here's term limits, et cetera,
yep,
and we need an amendment to the Constitution, it starts at the state level. So that is something I'm committed to, is making sure that there are term limits for politicians. I mean, our current Congresswoman has been in office for 43, and I just turned 31. So,
wow. Well,
the Congress is themselves out of a job, so somebody else got to do it.
Good for you, Ian, for pledging for that. All right. Last topic of the evening is the non-citizens registered in New Jersey to vote.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, how many times are we told that doesn't happen? That's my first thought. We're constantly told that does not happen. That is not possible and never takes place. And there's yet another incident of it.
What I find interesting about this is that, number one, it was 6,600, and there are 9.5 million registered. I mean, 9.5 million people live in the state of New Jersey. So the number is very small. It's still relatively small. I got it. We need to address the issue, but I don't think we need to get overly excited about it. They're doing something. They are correcting it. But I find it interesting. The governor said there was a glitch in the software, and the software companies come back and said, no, it's not a problem with the software. Software did what it was supposed to do. This was individuals who pushed it over and allowed them to be registered voters. And some of them have even voted, which is interesting. So
I will share the state of Ohio. There's a lot of, hubbub about the SAVE Act and voter ID and that sort of stuff at the national level. I would say Ohio has like the gold standard for elections. So we require ID to vote. I mean, I was a poll worker during the primary in a different part of town, so I wasn't on the ballot. And I was looking at IDs all day, and we went through training to, hey, if you see this type of ID or if it has this mark, like call over the manager and, ask for an explanation before allowing them to proceed. So that's one great thing about Ohio amongst many, that I think we have some of the best election processes in the country. And I think when it comes to situations like New Jersey, I think we have to make sure that eligible votes are counted, ineligible votes aren't counted, and that there's a principle for our elections to make sure that the appropriate votes are being counted, that we have to make sure that the votes that are actually being tallied are, U.S. citizens that have the right to vote. And if these people are in breach of a law, that, they should be removed from voter rolls, et cetera, and, prosecuted accordingly. So, but just want to
Yeah.
share that Ohio's got great election laws.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's awesome. That's good to hear. I mean, I'm an election official here in Virginia, Ian, and I'm a precinct chief. I float around every time they need somebody to run a station when the chief is not available. So I love how Virginia does stuff. The one thing I don't like about Virginia is it's not mandatory ID. And Mark Warner just got called out about this, right? He goes, no, you have to have ID. No, you don't have to have photo ID, right? You can show a utility bill. You can show your voter registration card. You don't have to show a picture.
Tennessee, you do.
Valid picture ID in Virginia. You don't. And I know that because I still believe that Virginia does a good job of making sure that the right people are voting. I mean, the polls are the polls. The people get vetted on the poll books in Virginia are vetted pretty well. So I think showing up, right? I think the ID part in Virginia, while they're making a big deal that you don't have to have ID in Virginia, I think it's still pretty solid the way they do things in Virginia. Probably not as good as Ohio, Ian, but
I like voting in Ohio better than I did in Virginia. So,
well,
I can walk to my polling station too, so that's also pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Ian, it's been awesome having you on here with us, and appreciate you staying for the second half and providing your perspective on some of the topics that we covered. It's been really good. I'm wishing you, I wish you all the best. I hope you're successful in November. I'll be sitting on the couch biting my fingernails off watching the results in November.
Well, Kevin, regardless of the outcome, I would like to have him back sometime after the election.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm
I
down.
think that'd be great
I'd love
to
to
do.
be back. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of the outcome, we'd love to have you back. And if you're successful, we'd like to talk about your success and what you think made you successful. And then if for some reason you're not, we'd love to also talk about, what you think you could have done different. Right. So, and what's your future, right? What's in the future for Ian beyond that? If for some reason you're not successful.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I had a great time. Love chatting with you guys, and I'm more than happy to return if you have me. And thanks for tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And as far and for our listeners for our next podcast, hey, listen, we don't have one locked in because again, we want to interview folks. I just want to emphasize, if you're interested in getting on the podcast, somebody that we should be interviewing for the podcast, or you have a topic that we should cover, please reach out to Jim or I and let us know. We'd love to get our next podcast with somebody on that we can interview.
Yep.
Well, I'm Kevin.
I'm Jim.
And we are
Signal Brothers.
Have a great one, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.